So if you folks don't know, I use Claude a lot, and especially Claude 3 Opus. I use it for day-to-day tasks, like literally every other day. So if I open my Claude right now, you can see this is just yes. So I use it for a lot of day-to-day work. And yesterday they announced Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is their most advanced AI model and even better than GPT-4o. Let's quickly take a look at it and also kind of take a look at this new feature called Artifact to see what they do. Right. And I probably will do some real-time testing with GPT-4o data because apparently Claude 3.5 Sonnet is better than GPT-4o. Now, one thing you need to understand here is that this is better variant of the Sonnet model. So before this, they had Claude 3 Sonnet, and this is the improved version of Sonnet. So one thing I should clarify is that one of the reasons why I bought Claude Pro was because I liked Claude 3 very much, and I was running into the usage limitations. So even without having the 3.5 version, Claude 3 was very, very good, the Sonnet version. Obviously, Opus turned out to be relatively more better than Claude 3 Sonnet because it had longer generation window. But over time, I've noticed that it's gotten dumb in a sense that it's not answering as smartly as it was first when I bought the Pro version. I think it's been 2 months. So my expectations with 3.5 are genuinely very, very high. And let's take a look at the features here. So notice how it has gone up in intelligence, but it's still somewhere in between when it comes to the cost, right? So it's more intelligent than 3 Opus, which was on anyway better than GPT-4, not GPT-4o. The good part is that it's now 2x the speed, so it's intelligent than Opus, but twice the speed than Opus itself. And these are the benchmarks, right? So GPQA wise, this beats the Opus model, 4o, and Gemini Pro. Like obviously we don't have benchmarks for it, but we know for a fact that Opus was better than 1.5 Pro. MMLU is the reasoning benchmark again, and you can see 5 shot. If you don't know what 5 shot and 0 shot is, in 5 shot we basically give 5 examples before the model predicts the answer to something. In 5 shot it beats all the other models except there is no benchmark for GPT-4o, but in 0 shot GPT-4o does better. And honestly, 0 shot as a benchmark is better than 5 shot, right? Because the model is able to answer correctly without any example. So it falls very short in this benchmark when it comes to GPT-4o. Then code wise, better than all the models. You can see the benchmarks are all here. Multilingual math wise, it does better than all the models. Reasoning wise, it does better than all the models. Mixed evaluations, this seems to be like a bunch of different problems at point, and most of these are reasoning and math based, and I'll explain why reasoning and math are like important benchmarks here. You can see mixed evaluation wise 3 shot, and all of these are again 3 shot. It does better than all the model. Math wise, it's second to GPT-4o, I believe. Yes. And then grade school math, it actually does better than other models, but we don't have benchmarks for GPT-4. And you can see they've clarified these are 5 shot answers and not 0 shot. The reason why it's important, these are 5 shot answer and not 0 shot. 5 shot, like I said, 5 examples and then model learns how to answer. 0 shot is immediately, it already has the way to answer that question in its database and it can immediately answer. Now, why are reasoning and math based evaluations important here? So very simple reason is if a model can reason and solve math questions, it basically means that it's now able to think on its own. If the model is able to think on its own, it basically means that we're closer to building a model that is intelligent, which a lot of models or LLMs are not right now. And reasoning and math is like an important criteria for humans to reach AGI. So if you build a model that is smarter and is able to solve maths based problems effectively, then we are closer to AGI. In fact, there's an ARC prize that pays like 1 million in scenarios where you're able to build a model that beats certain benchmarks. It's listed on Kaggle. I'll add the link in the description. Either ways, let's quickly take a look at this. This is the vision based benchmarks and the vision based demo. Let's quickly take a look at this video. the part where it's now creating presentations. The JS based presentations, I'm not very sure what that is right now, but I'm going to try that in a little bit once we go through the benchmarks here. And I think I'm mostly done now. And by the way, what you saw, let me just go back. These things are what is one of the new features here. So you can see artifact. This basically stores all your code related info and so on and so forth. So that's one of the new features. So we're not dive in depth in this with respect to the feature itself, but this is what it is, right? Now benchmarks, right? So visual math reasoning 67.7, way better than GPT-4o. Science diagram, again better than GPT-4o, slightly better than, again, zero shot, right? That's important. Visual question answering MMLU, which it falls a little bit short of GPT-4o. Chart QA relaxed accuracy, a lot better than GPT-4o, to be honest, and very close to Gemini 1.5. Document visual QA 95.2 versus these models being at 92 and 93 respectively. And one of the other important things to also note that it has context window of, I believe, 200k tokens. Let me find where that is. 200k context window, which is huge. Now note Gemini has 1 million context window, which is the biggest, but 200k is still like a large context window, which makes, this kind of makes it ideal for scenarios where you have longer text or longer chat windows. Again, I think that's mostly it with respect to what the model does. Now let's go ahead and try and see if we can generate presentation just like we saw in the demo there. Now for that, we'll initially need some data. So can you, by the way, this is the pop-up that you'd see if you want to enable artifacts. This is an experimental feature preview, so only enable if you'd want this experience. I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to see how it looks. You can see this will pop up once you enable it. Can you create a basic timeline? I'm going to change the model to 3.5 of history of evolution AI or AGI or AI from the beginnings to today. Again, my goal here is to just get some data in place, such that we can later use this data to create like a presentation. And you can see it's now creating all of this. This is again the artifact feature that I mentioned, where you have the text or the important bits that you actually ask for in a document format, which you can now directly download or copy. Now let's say, can you create JS based presentation for this? I don't know what this actually means, so let's see if it's able to do it. And again, it's using something called React Spring library for animations and some basic styling. So does that mean it can run functions now? We'll know that in a little bit. Okay, so it's using some unsupported libraries, so it won't be able to run it. Let's go back to demo video and see what library they used, because probably the library that we might have access to. Assuming this, once you have the access to this code, you have to run it yourself on your end. It still won't be able to run it for me, but it will give me access to the data. Let's see if we can create the timeline that we had seen in the video. Plotly.js. Can you create an interactable timeline using, by the way, just looking at the code here, this is way better than what we see on GPT-4o or the initial version that we've been using of Claude 3 Opus. So honestly, looking at the code, I'm actually happy how well written this is, because even the function names are very well written, right? Again, it does not have access to this, so what we'll have to do is we'll have to run this offline. You know what, I'm gonna not run this, or maybe I can try running some of the presentation code in Python. So let's say, can you create a Python based presentation of topic? I have access to Visual Studio and it's easier to run Python in there. I mean, it's not hard to run Node.js based code, but Python is just like easier to set up as opposed to running like Node.js based code. Anyway, so I'm gonna wait for it to complete generation, and then I'm gonna move to Visual Studio Code and show you the screen and then actually run the code in the backend. I believe I will need this library, Tinker, I guess, right? So let's copy this and I'm gonna open a new folder and I'm gonna share that. All right, so I think you now see my screen. This is the code I went ahead and added in here, and I'm gonna just run here. If you have Python installed, you can actually also try it on your own, and you can see this is something that came up, but nothing really in this right now. So I'm gonna close this and I'm gonna try running this again. Still nothing. So I'm gonna go back to this and I'm gonna say, when I run it, and then I'm gonna copy this code I'm going to add it here to see if it's able to apply some changes to this. So it's adding error handling. I don't know if that will make it run this. Now let's run it. You can see all of these things are now logged, that we've created events, text button, and so on and so forth. It's just that we don't see the presentation in here right now. You can see the title here. There's no presentation in this. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go back to Claude and I'm going to put the what I saw in the logs, and I'm going to say this is the log. If this does not work, we'll just create like an interactable PPT and see if that changes in. Okay, so it made some changes in this. I'm going to copy this and be name main. Is the main function defined? All right, so I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to start paste this and I'm going to import this library, fix it, and then finally let's also add. Let's run the code now. Yep, still nothing. I'm going to see if we can create like a, can you instead create interactable timeline, this instead of PPT. So let's see if that is able to do it. We'll need a bunch of different libraries, so I'm not sure if I have those installed anyway. I'm not going to install it though. If we are able to run it without these libraries, I think that'd be great. Let's copy this and paste it here. I think I already have access to these libraries, so I think it's going to be easier relatively to run this. And there you have it, high level of the timeline, and the code actually works. Not something that I had expected off the bat. Either ways, it does relatively better than writing code than GPT or I mean the Claude 3 Opus, right? So again, really cool update, and the fact that I use this often, it kind of makes me feel happy that we finally have a relatively smarter model, because over time I noticed that Claude 3 Opus actually turned out to be like a similar version to GPT-4 and not something that I was looking for initially when I started or purchased the Pro version. So I'm excited that now this works relatively better than what I had expected it to, and I'm looking forward to using it more often. If you folks have any questions, let me know, but I'll see you guys in the next